Hey beautiful people, so I want to come on real quick and do a quick video. I want you guys to please, I don't even know what's happening right here. So my hair looks, first off, it doesn't look that bad. It actually looks pretty cute. However, it's dry, and I dyed my hair about a year ago blonde, and then I dyed it black about a year and a half, like 6 months ago. And I have not gotten a trim since all this dyeing happened. And then so it's a cute color now. It's going back to brown, but it is extremely brittle at the end. I had a wig on a few days ago. I had some cornrows in. My hair needed to be washed. I took my cornrows out, and it's been looking like this for a few days now. The goal was to wash my hair, condition it, deep condition it, braid it back up, and put a wig back on it until I can get my steam treatment and my ends clipped or ends trimmed. But that didn't happen, so it's been in this crunchy fro for about a week. Yes, lazy naturals. Woo-hoo. All right, so I want to get into this video. Please excuse my voice. I'm getting over a cold, and please excuse my nails because I can't go there right now. I can't tell you what's happening with that. And excuse my lisp because I have my retainer in, and I have a crazy lisp when I have my retainer. I dropped off my kids. I'm down to one child, which is a baby, and he's in the back sleeping. And so I'm going to get into this video before he wakes up, starts crying, or before I get home and I gotta get out the car. It's pretty impromptu. I just wanted to do a video on something that I'm going through right now. A lot of my videos, especially about my husband and I and our journey and our love story, is always good stuff. Like, oh, we're so in love, blah, blah, blah. But it's really important for me to highlight the real. And the real is that even though we are completely, absolutely in love, we have a wonderful, wonderful marriage. A happy marriage. I'm happy, he's happy. We have issues, like little things that come up, and it's like, oh my gosh, what's going on? So past few days I've been super duper emotional. I'm not gonna say it's hormones, I'm not gonna say it's anything like that. It is the enemy. It is the enemy, and I know it's the enemy because I got confirmation today that the enemy is trying to distract me. It was basically preached to me all my life that it is my job to take care of the house and home and the children. Basically turned into that was how I valued myself. So I valued myself basically based off of what I could do. I was blessed to marry my husband now, Ralph, and he does not require that of me. He is very much big on, this is a team effort, and whatever you can do, I can do just as well, and vice versa. And I might not, even if I can't do it just as well, I can try and do it the way you want me to, and vice versa. And yes, he wants me to stay home and be home with the kids, but he does not confine me to the house, and he doesn't say like, this is your job and this is my job. And I know everyone has their different opinions about that, but that's why it's important who you marry, right? So we don't have to agree on that. So with all that being said, a few months ago, my husband and I started a business, which I'm really excited about. But we started a business, and it's going well. I've been predominantly the one that's, home with the kids. So I've been, putting in the groundwork for this business and for this company. And my husband works a full-time job, and he's not home. And so I'm home, taking care of the kids, homeschooling, cooking, cleaning, all of that, and dealing with this business and getting this business started. Well, that's all fine and dandy. However, I've come to the conclusion within the last few weeks that, okay, I have to reprioritize my life, because although I do not keep a dirty house, and I make sure that dinner is done, lunch is done, breakfast is made, I have to now divvy up my time between all of those things and this business. And so with doing that, I believe the Holy Spirit has helped me with that by showing me how to reprioritize. So I have had a few days where I don't cook, and I've had a few days where I don't clean thoroughly. I've straighten up, but I don't clean thoroughly because I need to make sure homeschooling is done. I have to make sure my six-month-old is taken care of, and I have to work on this business in order for it to be successful. And before, I would not do that. I made sure I did everything. I don't care. It wasn't like, oh, I cooked so I don't do the dishes. No, I cooked, I did the dishes. If I had to eat in the kitchen while everyone else was in the dining room eating, I was going to make sure that the dishes were done. And then my husband would say, babe, please just come sit down. And I was like, no, I'm okay. Let me just get this house clean. Because, again, I valued myself based off of how well I maintained my home. So after I made this change, after I reprioritized my daily duties, I started to notice a difference. But because of the husband I married, he never said anything, and I didn't think that he cared. Honestly, I was like, okay, well, he doesn't care. You know, he's always trying to get me to sit down anyway, so I'm finally not, killing myself over this house. He's probably pretty appreciative over me just sitting down. In my mind, that's what I thought. So one day, I'm holding the baby, I'm working on the computer, Aubrey is running around like a crazy baby, JoJo's doing her homework, she's just now finishing up her homeschooling work, and I was like cleaning up the living room, all of this at one time, and my husband was maybe home for about an hour. He comes and sits next to me in the living room, and he's kind of looking like salty, and I'm like, are you okay? And he's like, yeah, that kitchen is just a mess. And immediately I was like, do you not see all the things that I have going on? I'm working the business when you're at work. I'm dealing with the kids. I'm making sure dinner is done. I'm trying to make sure the house is clean. And if I don't get to the dishes, I just don't get to the dishes. And so I don't need the pressure. And this is all going through in my head. And I like the way I typically will handle things, instead of me just verbalizing or taking my time to figure out exactly what's going on and really hone in on what he meant by that instead of jumping to conclusions. But I give Luke to him, and I go and I start cleaning. And when I say I started cleaning, I cleaned the kitchen, I cleaned the living room, I did laundry. I was like, you would have thought I had some crack in my veins. I was like cleaning up everything with attitude, like you want this done, it's gonna get done. And I don't know who I was punishing, but in my mind it was like, it's gonna get done. And so ever since then, I've had an attitude for 3 days. Not a full-blown like I'm not talking to you attitude, but just like salty, like a big old brat. Lord spoke to me so clearly this morning. He showed me how selfish I've been, how immature I've been, and how I've allowed the devil to come into my home and take days away from my life. Days where I could have been enjoying my husband's company. Days where I could have been productive. My heart hasn't even been open to enjoying my family like I should have, because I decided to walk around salty over some emotions that shouldn't even be there. So my main objective in sharing this with you guys is basically my main objective with sharing this with y'all is how no matter how wonderful our marriage is, no matter how wonderful our lives are, the enemy is still going to look for an open window. He is still going to look for an open door. He's going to look for a crack. He's going to look for a crevice. He's going to look for any way in. And if your emotions are a way for him to get into your home and get into your life, he's going to use them. He's going to use them. That is his main job. He can use devices, and his devices are tricky, and sometimes they're small and minute, and you might not even recognize them at first. But that's why it's very, very important for us to not be emotional, for us to not be reactionary. And as women, we try to make excuses of why we're emotional. Well, I'm a woman, or it's that time of the month. Well, when we do that and we make these assumptions about ourselves because of who the world says we are, What that does is it allows the enemy to creep in undetected, because we're blaming it on everything else. We're giving it so many different names, PMS and, postpartum and all of these things, not trying to minimize real issues that people may have, but I challenge you to first recognize what can be happening spiritually. The Bible says that we do not wrestle between flesh and flesh. And it's saying that basically our issues are not always what we can see and fleshly things. And so for you girls out there, you wonderful, beautiful sisters of mine, I really just urge you to get those things in check now. And I want to make it very clear that God does not wait until you are perfect. I just want to close by saying that it's really important that we don't say that we're not ready for marriage or we're not ready for a relationship or whatever the case is, because honestly, if it were up to me, I would have wanted all of that attitude and all of that emotional behavior and being so reactionary. I would have wanted to get that. So I want to close by saying it's really important that we don't say that we're not ready for marriage or there's things that we need to fix before marriage, because honestly, that is being your own God. You have to allow God to do what he's going to do in your life. And for me, if it were up to me, I told Ralph this when we first started dating. I said, listen, I'm not ready for marriage. And he said one thing to me, and I mentioned this in another video. He said, Fagan, honestly, I hear you, but there's a lot of things that are not going to come out of you, and not a lot of brokenness that's not going to be mended until you get married. There's things that God can't even do in your life without that individual. That individual is going to help you heal. And that's exactly what my husband does for me. There's so many things that he's uncovered in me that I did not know were there. And he's constantly helping me heal, constantly helping me mend broken pieces in me. Please don't limit God as to what God can do. Your main objective and your main goal is to remain in God's face, remain at his feet, praying and wanting to know more about him, wanting to deepen your relationship with him. Work on you. When God is showing you issues that you may have and things that some character traits that you need to work on them. That's the best thing you could possibly do for yourself. But attacks from the enemy are going to come whether you are married, single, what have you. Attacks are going to come when you are in the will of God more than ever, because he is trying to slow you down. And I made a declaration today that I will not keep allowing the enemy to have so much power and reign in my life. He is getting way too much time and energy. I'm giving him time that I don't have. 3 days is a long time. I could have done some wonderful things in 3 days. Within 3 days, I could have done some major damage to the enemy's camp, and he knew that, so he had to get me all emotional. For 3 days, I prayed before I went to sleep, I prayed when I woke up, but I did not spend real quality time with God. For 3 days, I said, hey, and I talked to my husband, and we had conversations, but we weren't truly intimate. We didn't have those deep conversations. Revelation wasn't pouring into our lives like it always does. I didn't share my dreams with him and him sharing his dreams with me. All of those things. Intimacy didn't happen in 3 days. That's why I really apologize to my husband. Let's get real. For 3 days, he didn't get any. And I promise you, I got rebuked for that more than anything. I didn't know I was going to get that real, but it is what it is. I'll see you guys next time. Love you, love you, love you. Comment down below any questions you may have, and I'll see you in the next video.